right now there's a lot of banks, or have been over the last few years, failing, and then the FDIC comes in and bails them out. And I haven't figured out what the effect of that is on the economy when money is taken out of the system because of the failure of the banks, and then the FDIC comes back and puts some new money back in with T-bills or whatever it does to prop it up. I know it has something to do with the business cycle, but I'm confused about exactly, I mean, this is monetary inflation, but you're not necessarily seeing a whole bunch of price inflation, and one of the things I think I'm confused about is which causes the business cycle, what causes distortions in the economy. I guess there's a lot of questions and all wrapped up into that, but what is the effect of banks failing today with the existing system where the FDIC comes back in and props it up? What is it going to do to the economy? What can we expect from here on out? Deflation of prices, inflation of prices, or what kind of distortions?
Well, I think what's happened since, a sea change happened in 1933, namely the Fed had always been hampered in its inflationary potential and saving at the banks by the fact they had a gold standard to worry about. The Fed couldn't inflate too much because they had to pay in gold also. And so there were literally thousands of bank failures during the early 30s. With the federal, with the going off the gold standard and with the FDIC, the Fed now had unlimited power to expand and inflate. And when the FDIC bailed out, for example, a Continental Illinois National Bank, they only had to bail out the people with deposits of $100,000 and under. They decided to bail out everybody. So they've already expanded now the FDIC as universal deposit insurance. And the use of insurance, of course, is a euphemism. It means the government prints money and bails out the banks. The key thing is the Federal Reserve has the unlimited power to print money. That's the key. To manufacture money. Instead of money being minted in gold or whatever, dug out of mines and painfully minted, making it therefore very scarce, which preserves the soundness of the money unit. Instead of that, the government, the Federal Reserve, has the unlimited power to print whatever it wants. And so what it does is it prints 8 billion, 30 billion, whatever, and bails out banks, buys assets or whatever. The technical, they do it to the tune of a lot of crises, a lot of jetting back and forth across the world to save the third world nations. But basically what it means is it's very simple. Basically, the Fed prints dollars and hands it out. Okay. So this is monetary inflation. It's expanding the supply of dollars. That's the distortion that creates the business cycle. And in order to try to eliminate recessions, which are the cause which is the result of inflation, they try to inflate more. So it's a sort of a spiral operation. And I've been in a constant argument with my hard money colleagues now for at least 10 years about whether deflation or inflation is on the horizon. And one of they sort of, in a sense, they have proclaimed victory recently because they redefined deflation. Deflation now means any inflation of less than 10% a year. Okay, talking about changing linguistics. I take the old-fashioned view. Deflation means a substantial fall in the cost of living. Okay, not the fall in zinc prices or something like that. A fall in cost of living, and that, of course, hasn't happened and won't happen. And it won't happen as long as the Federal Reserve has the infinite power to create money, which they have. And so if you have the power to create money, the power to print money, you'll do it. It's one of Rothbard's laws. I have my own laws. One is that if you have the power to print money, you'll do it. Okay? Regardless of any ideology or statements that you should limit your counterfeit operations to 3% a year, as the Freemanites want to do. Basically, you'll print it. You find various reasons for it. You save banks, you save people, you save people of Argentina, whatever. There's lots of reasons for creating more money. And that's really the problem.
Well, the Federal Reserve has the power to print money, but they don't really print very much money. They print credit. And that's very different from money because it draws interest. And it looked like a good deal going in, but the interest becomes such a weight burden at some point they can't expand credit. Then what happens?
Well, they can expand credit. They print money, and usually the money goes out in the form of buying assets of one sort or another. So if they buy government bonds, for example, this means the government bond dealer gets whatever the money for, say, a million. Say the Fed writes out a check for $1 million of government bonds. The bond dealer gets the $1 million check, which means the Federal Reserve System promises to pay to the bearer $1 million. He can't do it because only banks can have deposit accounts with the Federal Reserve banks. He deposits in his bank, or else he tears it up, which he won't do. He deposits in Chase or Citibank or whatever. They get a reserve increase of $1 million. They pyramid credit 10 to 1 on top of it. This is basically what happens. In other words, it's a creation of money through the fact that the Federal Reserve has the power to print. Because if anybody asks the Fed to redeem your deposits in dollars, they'll print the dollars and redeem it. So the power to actually print the money is the basis for the whole inflationary system. It doesn't mean they actually print the money and spend it. That's what the Treasury used to do in the Civil War. But it's a more sophisticated way of doing it. They write out checks out of thin air, buy bonds with it, and then the checks or deposits on the Fed then go out into the system, circulate in the system. And say if anybody wants to redeem their deposits in cash, the Fed will print the cash to pay it back, pay it off.